I do want to mention in the opening, I got my coronavirus vaccine, or the first dose of it anyway. And I'm still alive. Everything's fine. My skin is turning green. I do have an insatiable thirst for brains, but besides that, I'm feeling fine. It actually, like, my arm still hurts, and I got it 3 days ago, so that's a little weird. Also, that first day, dude, I had like the worst headache, and I was like so tired. But after I went to sleep and stuff, and I woke up the next day, I was fine. So anyone who's worried about it, I'm still alive. So don't be scared.
And that third eye, Jake, that's growing in between your eyes right now, looks perfectly normal.
Yeah.
5, 6, 7, 8.
What is up, boyos? Welcome to the Jake and Cory podcast. I am Jake. That is Cory. What is up, Cory?
Merry Christmas, America.
I've been thinking about this show all day, and I've been like, just like, how do we talk about what happened? You know, like, how do we address? Do we do it in, like, do we go the chronological order and, like, as things unfold, or do we just freeform it? I don't know, man.
Here's the thing.
So much happened.
By the time this show comes out, by the time this show is posted out, everybody knows the chronological order. Everybody except for Amish American people. Everybody's going to know what's happening. Even they know. Everybody.
They got their newsletter in the mail by now.
I'm sure. They're like, oh my God, this happened Tuesday? Oh my God, it's Monday. Everybody knows that. I think where we should go on this show is our reaction and our take on it. You know, I think it would be useless for us to sit here and hash out the events as they happen. Everybody knows by now. And if they were like us, they watched it in real time. And I think that's the most unprecedented thing about the entire process, about the entire events, is that it unfolded in real time. It wasn't like, oh, something's going on down at the Capitol, get the cameras down there. The cameras were already there.
They knew.
The cameras were already there because they knew, number one, there was a rally going on a block up the street, and number two, they knew that 121 or so people were going to start objecting to this. So they were talking about the Senate thing of them certifying the votes, which is pretty much just ceremonious at this point.
It is,
and it happens every time there's a new president elected.
And usually it's not a big deal.
Yeah, but they knew that this one was going to be a big deal because of the previous contestants that they heard was going to happen. So all the cameras were there. So there was no flying people in. There was no getting cameras on the ground, getting reporters out there. They were already in place because they were there to cover the circus that was going to take place in the Capitol. What we didn't expect to unfold in front of our eyes was what took place outside of the Capitol that eventually went into the Capitol. I think that is the most important timeline, that a part of the timeline that we didn't see coming. Now, we knew that there was going to be a rally. We knew that there was going to be a march. We did not know that it was going to reach the levels that it was going to get to. And the media and everybody was thinking that they were going to cover this electoral vote contestant for a couple of hours, and then we were going to be back to watching Ellen DeGeneres show by 3:00 in the afternoon. Nobody realized that they needed to pack a fucking lunch and dinner and late night snack for the news coverage that was going to take place.
Yeah, Taco Bell fourth meal.
I'm telling you.
It's insane, dude. I happened to be watching it, you know, just sort of like eyeing it because I knew it was happening. You know, like I knew that they were doing the counts. I knew that there would be, you know, MAGA protests outside. You know, I knew that. And as I was watching it, just like passively, I had it on the TV in the background. And as I was watching it, I was like, are they at the doors of the Capitol right now? Are they trying to break open that door at the Capitol? How did they even get there? How is this happening? And then I was like, are those doors opened? Are they in the doors? It was,
dude,
the most insane thing.
I turned on the news when they started to count the votes. Got past Alaska, got past Alabama, got to Arizona. I contest.
It was right around Arizona, yeah.
And I said, here we go. Let the show begin. And then I went and I took a dump, and I muted the TV, and it was more watching me than I was watching it. Then I get a hot text from old Jake Woods here. Are you watching this? And I'm like, no, I turned it off. It was just counting the votes. I had no idea that all that other stuff was happening until you text me and I turned it back on and I see the world burning down.
Yeah. It was truly insane because I was like, dude, I got to talk to someone about this. Like, they were breaking in. I was listening to this one newscaster who happened to be like inside of the Capitol.
There are a lot of people inside there. A lot of journalists inside there.
And she's like, oh my God, they're breaking open the door. I'm like right behind the door. And she was like up on the balcony. And man, it must have been terrifying for like the journalists and not to mention the senators and stuff that were in there as well. It had to be terrifying for all of them.
It wasn't terrifying for all of them. It wasn't.
I think it was.
It wasn't terrifying for 121, 22, 23, 24 of them. It wasn't terrifying enough. And I'm talking about.
I think it was.
I'm talking about the ones that still objected to the electoral college votes.
But here's the thing, like, you know, they got in there and ultimately it was a coup and they are terrorists. I stand by that. You know, people are like stepping on eggshells about calling them terrorists.
And we won't use the word protest. That wasn't a protest. No. That wasn't a march. They're not protesters. So you're not going to hear us refer to them as such on this show.
I'll meet you in the middle, and I'm sure there were some people outside of the Capitol who were just there to protest or whatever. Nope. But everyone who passed those gates, who got inside, and it wasn't a small amount of people. It looked like there were at least, you know, a few hundred people storming the gates.
A few hundred? A couple of thousand people, man.
Well, there were a couple thousand people on the streets, right? But I'm talking about that actually got inside of the Capitol. Oh. There had to have been a few hundred, at least. Yeah. And the thing is, it was failed because they knew someone was bashing on the door, and they said, hey, senators, get to the tunnels. And, you know, they all headed to the tunnels. But the thing is they found pipe bombs. They found pipe bombs there.
Live pipe bombs ready to go off.
They found zip ties, you know, and I don't know how, even if you are, you know, the Trumper, and a lot of the people who were pro-Trump before, the senators have now totally changed their tune, which is an interesting thing to see. But even the ones that still contested it when they reconvened later in the evening, there's no way they weren't terrified too, because a pipe bomb, you know, doesn't discriminate.
Yeah, it doesn't discriminate, but Jake, they not all of them changed their tunes. No, not all of them changed their tunes. And the three knuckleheads that are still leading the evolution, even after all of this, still are singing the same song. That there are the signs of a sadistic person, that you have something that traumatic happen to you, and you still don't see anything different. You don't, your viewpoint, dude, I'm telling everybody that's listening to this show right now, I'm going to be doing a lot of yelling. I'm going to be yelling a lot on this episode today because I'm fucking fired up. So, for all of you that are scared of angry black men, you might want to go download a Disney podcast, because this episode, there's going to be a lot of yelling for me today. And I apologize if you're listening to this while you're nursing your child and your child hears me yell and they detach from your breast. I apologize for that. So, nursing moms, beware. that wasn't enough fear for some of those people. Any right-thinking individual, if your life is put in danger by something that you support, a normal thinking person would adjust the way they think. It would shake any human being. It would make someone look in the mirror and question their level of support. For the ones that did pivot, I applaud you for doing so. I still want to slap your mama that it took you so fucking long, but still, I applaud you for it took threats of your life in order for your fucking nuts to drop. But there were still some nutless motherfuckers up in there. And
even our vice president Mike Pence, he turned on Trump, but it took Trump turning on Pence for Pence to turn on Trump.
It did, and the lap dog is a little too late for him. He too close.
Yeah.
I mean, you're there. Yeah, you want to turn on the lap. You want to turn now, but dude, the whole fucking time you may not have been setting the fires, but you were definitely carrying some of the matches. You know what I'm saying? And when you got Josh Hawley of Missouri and Ted Cruz of Texas and Tommy Turbinville and Roger Marshall of Kansas, John Kennedy of Louisiana, and Cindy Hyde Smith of Mississippi, and those motherfuckers' lives are threatened with hundreds of people screaming and shouting. Don't you think that if those people would have got to any of those senators or representatives, they would have been able to know who's who? No, they would have just went for whoever they could get to. And these motherfuckers still didn't pivot. Still had their agenda, still wanted to say what they had to say, still wanted to object to the election. Still, even after they've been rushed into a freaking tunnel to protect their lives, still saw he was king. If you don't tell me that that's some sadistic, fucked up shit, I don't know what's wrong with you. Your mother didn't love you, or an uncle pushed you in a corner somewhere when you were a child. Anything that traumatic, if not for self-preservation, for just human ability to invoke an emotion would make you want to pivot on the fact that, okay, maybe our agenda isn't right. But no, these motherfuckers stood tall. Even after all of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions to be had about this. Like, one, who's to blame? The obvious ones, Trump, very obviously.
There's no question on who's to blame, Jake. There's no question.
But I think it goes wider, okay? Because I think obviously Trump definitely incited this. And, even disconnecting from all of the rhetoric that he said in the past, Proud Boys, stand by, stand back, stand by, all that shit. Let's disconnect that even for a moment, okay? Him that morning doing a rally in front of the Capitol, just a few blocks forward, with all of his cronies there, and him saying, we're going to march towards the Capitol. And we're going to not allow them to let us lose. This is fraudulent.
Don't show
that alone
weakness.
Is enough. That enough is him inciting.
Yeah.
Okay? And then, of course, Rudy Giuliani, who also spoke. And he said, we're going to win back the presidency with violence, I think was what he said.
Yep.
Or something like that.
Yep.
You cannot tell me that is not inciting a riot. Two, just to keep it on Trump for a minute, Trump also did not address anything. He did not call in the National Guard. Ultimately, Pence had to do it. And then, even then, it took forever for anything to happen there.
Yeah, we're going to get back to that too.
Yeah, and then, Trump's subsequent tweets where he, hey guys, maybe you don't attack, but we love you. You're special. His fucking video. Oh my God, that's horrible.
When did that video come out though? Didn't I tell you? What did I tell you? I texted Jake and I told him, I said, Biden just came out and addressed the nation. Now Trump will. Trump would not have done that if Biden didn't do it. Because
That's true.
because Trump likes the fucking spotlight, and he saw that Biden was taking it from him. So he didn't address the public live. His ass went and had to have the lights set up, had the camera set up, probably had to go through hair and makeup, and then went out and did it. And pre-recorded
the video was hyper edited too. I don't know if you noticed.
Oh
that.
yeah, 100%. I'm a video editor. Of course.
Where Biden's was literally he just went out there and spoke live. Yeah, just ridiculous. You're the president and you want to remain the president and you don't act presidential at all. And then, you know, the tweets that he was making where he was still claiming it was fraudulent.
Even in the video, he said he started off.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But I think it goes wider than that because there are some people that people are not talking about who I think also helped this whole thing spawn and some of the blame should be placed on them as well. People like Tucker Carlson.
Yep.
Okay. People like Tim Pool, who's been talking about how a revolution is coming.
Yep.
People like Tommy Lauren. Okay. These people should be held accountable for their words. Okay. I understand we have freedom of speech, but inciting a riot is not freedom of speech. That's inciting a riot. Okay. And that is against the law.
They don't see it as a riot though, Jake. They don't see it as a riot.
Yeah.
They see it as a protest.
Well, it was.
And then
I don't give a shit what they see it as.
And
honestly,
every Republican political figure that has been on the news since then, calling this, trying to direct the blame of the riots on Antifa.
Yeah. Ridiculous. It's funny. It's almost like, oh, if only there was some sort of anti-fascist group that was warning us that this would happen for years, you know?
There was a now when I saw this unfolding, Jake, this hit me a little bit more personally than I think it hit you. Because I have actually stood on those steps. I've stood on the steps of the Capitol. I know exactly how far the Capitol is from the White House because I walked it. The White House, the Capitol, the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, all of that is in like a T shape.
Right.
Where if you're standing at the highest point of, or not even at the highest, at the midway point of either one of those buildings, you can see the other building. You can see the Washington Monument from the White House, from the Capitol, from the Lincoln Memorial. All those are all right there. And there's a couple other monuments that are down there too, not to disparage them as well. But all of that is right there. We're talking literally, if you've never been to Washington, D.C., and I have, walking distance. And I'm talking about it's fat guy walking distance, meaning it's very close. You know, people literally make the monument walk every day for exercise. We're not saying that these are blocks and blocks away from each other. No, they're literally within the stone's throw of each other. Some of them would call them right next door. A lot of what separates the White House from the Washington Monument is grass and a road. And a lot of what separates the Washington Monument from the Capitol is grass and a road and some cement. You know, they're literally right on top of each other. But I took this so personally because I've stood there. And as a black man, standing on the steps of that Capitol, knowing the history of that Capitol, I still stood in reverence. I still took pause. When you're there and there's tourists that are almost everywhere, you can't get up to the top, but you can get up to some of the steps. You can't get all the way up to the top unless you have, a pass or something like that. There's a visitor center and there's ways you can get in that building. Anybody and everybody can go in there, but there are certain avenues that you have to take to get in there. I didn't take those avenues because when I was in DC, I was there for more business than I was pleasure, but I did have an afternoon where I could go down and see the monuments, and that Capitol building is one that I did visit. I did want to go up to the White House, but I got about halfway there and I felt that there were a lot of people staring at me and I turned around and walked away. This was second year of Rump's administration, by the way. But I've been there. I've been on those steps, man. And the feeling that you have of the history and the sacrifice and where you're standing, what amazing moments have happened. The election and inauguration of presidents, speeches that are written in history books today. When you stand in that spot, it is the equivalent of you standing in the holies of holies in whatever synagogue or church you may go, that you may hold reverence to. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Because of the deep rooted history, whether a bright history or a dark history, nevertheless, it's history. And as many bad things that have come out of this country, there are good things that have come out of this country. And when you stand at these monuments, there's a reason why those monuments are there. Yeah, you can look at it and say, oh, they were built by slaves and that's history. And if you are an American, you should hold reverence to that. It's silent when you're on these monuments. You don't hear chatter and people screaming and yelling. It doesn't sound like a county fair. That monument area, Washington, D.C. is a fucking library because people are there to honor what it means. Yeah. So when you have someone, the irony. That when this took place, man, I'm looking at this and honestly, Jake, a tear rolled down my face because I'm like, I stood there. I effing stood there.
Yeah. See, like, for me, yeah, nationalism to me is like weird and it's a dicey road, but I do understand what you're meaning. Like the history of it and the importance of it. And, you know, that whole thing that happened that day is a symbolic thing. You know, it's not an actual, you know, it's more of a symbolic thing of just like, let's count the votes.
Oh, yeah, it happens every time. And, it means nothing.
Yeah.
And it's just it probably meant something maybe 50, 100 years ago. It doesn't now.
100?
100. I made the number up. It doesn't now. It happens all the time. And normally it takes place behind closed doors and it's over and done in 15, 20 minutes. And everybody's up at Ben's Chili Bowl having some chili.
Yeah. But the irony of Trump, where this is happening, right? This is the Trump and these people, right? These people are going in there vandalizing one of the most symbolic buildings in our country during one of the most symbolic moments in, you know, of every 4 years where they count the votes and, you know, clarify who our president is. They go in there, they vandalize it. Trump says, you know, you're special and we love you. Colin Kaepernick very respectfully takes a knee to protest. Very respectfully. I couldn't think of a more respectful way to protest our country than to take a knee, which is something that even, you know, United States soldiers do, because you don't want to just like rip up the flag, because you still respect the flag, but you take a knee to, you know, say, I'm protesting. There's something that I find wrong and I'd like to get it fixed because I do love this country. And that's the thing. I love this country, but there are issues. And I feel that way myself. I do love this country. I've lived here my whole life. This is my home. And I do love it, but there are issues with this country. I would never try to like disrespect it.
Right.
But then these motherfuckers go in there and disrespect my capital, okay? Our capital. And Trump says, you're special and we love you. But when Colin Kaepernick took a knee, they're monsters. They disrespect the flag. You know, they should be fired. They're evil. You know, when the looting starts, the shooting starts. Like, this is what Trump does towards these people, but not towards these people. And why is that? Why is it when there was a BLM protest in that same fucking area, Trump went down and incited another riot with his fucking police force when he wanted to take a picture with a goddamn book. That police force was nowhere to be seen.
None.
On this day. Where were they? We all knew that there were going to be protests there. What the fuck happens if that was some other country coming in to try and take over our government? What happens then? Where's the defense? This was the same thing as another country coming in. It's just domestic. There's no difference. Because these people were born here and they're white makes no difference than someone who's born, wherever the fuck, Germany, where it doesn't matter. You get what I'm saying. Like, it's just ridiculous that this happened and there were no police there. I'm not bashing the police. I'm not bashing all the police who were there, because like there's that one video of the dude who's like trying to hold off 200 people by himself. I'm not like bashing this dude, but whoever's in charge of that Capitol Police, I know he stepped down recently, and that's a good call, but he should be fucking arrested because they offered to have the FBI there, and the head of the Capitol Police declined it. They offered to have the Coast Guard there. The Capitol Police head denied it.
It almost seems like it was a well-orchestrated master fuck-up. Now, number one, a lot of people don't realize this about Washington, D.C. There are so many levels of law enforcement there. You've got the Capitol Police. You've got the National Forest Police. You've got the Secret Service. You've got the FBI. There are so many different jurisdictions.
National Guard.
And here's another thing. The Pentagon, the powerhouse behind military, is less than 2 miles away from where all of this went down. So if you don't think that this is a coup orchestrated at so many different levels of why the National Guard had to be called in by the vice president and not by the president, when the National Guard, the strongest level of protection that we have for our nation, was literally up the street at Ben's Chili Bowl. They weren't ready. They were ready to go. And that's their job. I have friends that are National Guardsmen, and when they are called in, they are on ready for the phone to ring, and they can deploy within minutes. And you know how this is true? Because we saw it at the Black Lives Matter protest. We saw it happen, where the marches started at a certain place in DC, and by time they reached the monuments and the White House, National Guard was everywhere. U.S. military was everywhere. Military helicopters flying low. And it took nothing but a blink of an eye in 15 minutes. I talked about at the beginning of this conversation how we watched this unfold in real time. The fucking sun was going down before the National Guard buses pulled up. We're talking 4 or 5 hours before the National Guard even got there. And you know what? And I understand about I'm going to defend the Capitol Police just a little bit, because these dudes that are normally in this building are there to basically make sure that you don't go where you're not supposed to go, and to make sure you stay quiet. That's what they're there for. They're not there for combat. They're not designed for that. They're the Capitol Police. They're there to protect rocks. The Congress and the House of Representatives, when they come in from their offices and stuff like that, they come in through the tunnels. They have their own level of Secret Service agents that are there to protect that individual person. The Capitol Police are literally there to tell you to shh and don't go that way. They're tourist directors in a way.
I don't want to attack all of the Capitol Police, because I saw some videos of them trying to do their job, but there was only so much
they were inequipped to do what they even on a normal daily basis, dude. If somebody came up in there acting crazy and silly, out of the 200 Capitol Police that are in that building, there's probably about 5 or 6 guys that are actually trained enough to take on combat. Those Capitol Police are the equivalent of the bouncer outside of the club. They're not equipped to take on a mob, let alone 4 or 5 outrully people. They're there to tell you to be quiet and don't go that way.
But I will say there were a few of them who should be punished, like the guy who opened the fucking gate.
Yeah, and the guy who took the selfie.
And the few of them who were taking selfies, like these people were part of it. Okay? But also, yeah, and I do hear what you're saying. Like, these are basically, boosted up Paul Blarts.
They are. And that's what they're there to do.
They're Paul Blarts. They're Paul Blarts with guns, basically.
A lot of them do.
But
yeah, that's true. They do have guns. But you also have to realize that when there are big events that are happening down at the Capitol, it's not the Capitol Police that are out there handling it. It's the National Guard. It's the FBI. It's the Secret Service. It's higher, stronger, more powerful law enforcement. It's not the Capitol Police. They're librarians, folks.
I also understand them not wanting to open fire or send tear gas because we've seen with BLM that just escalates thing. That's the whole thing that escalates it. Absolutely. And once they're in there, you don't want it to turn into a war, and I get that. But it's just not balanced at all. And they shouldn't have been able to get to that point anyway. As soon as they started pushing on the gates, they should have been tased. They should have fucking gassed. Well, there's no reason that they should have been.
Let's look at the gates, though, Jake. They were pushing on. We're not talking about protest gates. We're talking about the little baby gates that keep you from walking on the grass. These are gates that Acme rents when they want to make sure that you go the right direction at the fair to get to the bathrooms. We're not talking about 6-foot gates. These are little 4-footers that are just sitting out there, that are just blocking off a couple of pieces of cement. The grass is open. People were at the Capitol. Regular, everyday people were at the Capitol, which happens every day. Having lunch, sitting on the grass, or whatever. It was cold that day. But during the day, there's people out there that it was in the middle of the day, late afternoon, people having late lunch. There were regular people that were out there, but when we talk about pushing on the gates, we're not talking about they were going up and they were pushing down iron fence. They were pushing down little itty bitty miniature crowd control gates.
This should have been set up. The whole the Capitol building should have been shut down. We knew that there was a rally happening at the very least with Trump.
We knew a month ago.
And we should have known that those people were going to come up and be protesting at the front. This should have been more set up for a giant protest because we knew it was going to happen. It's pretty inevitable that when there's a protest, there's a few bad faith actors and in some instances, it's going to be violent. We saw it with BLM where there were a few bad eggs in that bunch, but ultimately most of them were peaceful. That could have been the same here. We don't know what would have happened if it was more equipped. It could have turned ugly. But if it's going to turn ugly, that's just the way it's going to be. These people shouldn't have made it to the front gates. They shouldn't have made it to the doors. These people shouldn't have had to leave during their delegation. They shouldn't have had to reconvene later in the day. They should have been able to continue without the fear. They should have been protected. And the fact that pipe bombs made it inside of our Capitol building should be terrifying to everyone. Yeah. The fact that Confederate flags that Confederate flags that we fought against, that this Capitol stands against since its very beginning. This building is the antithesis of the fucking Confederate flag, and the fact that Confederate flags, people wearing Nazi memorabilia, people with Nazi fucking tattoos, made it inside of our Capitol, attempting a coup on behalf of our president, that should terrify everyone. And the fact that, it's the day later, and I want to get into this point, the fact that the day later, obviously Pence and the guys couldn't immediately enforce the 25th Amendment because they had to reconvene and finish what they started. But the very next day, that should have been the first fucking thing that they did. They should have immediately invoked the 25th Amendment because our president is not fit to run this country, even if it takes the full 2 weeks to get him out of office, because I know he's leaving office in 2 weeks or whatever. Even if it took the whole 2 weeks, the symbolism of us doing it would have been good enough.
And it's not even the symbolism that
enough.
we're looking for, Jay. They should have invoked the 25th Amendment, and since he didn't, I want them to go through with the impeachment. Even though the impeachment process is going to go past the 2 weeks, this is what people don't understand about the impeachment process. If he is indeed impeached by the House and forced out by Congress, even after the inauguration, do you know what that does? What that does is that secures us for the future. Because if you are impeached and removed from office, you can never hold another federally funded government position for the rest of your life. That's why he needs to be impeached. Even though it's not going to get him out of office when we know he's leaving in 2 weeks, we need to secure our future for this motherfucker never having a chance to rise up and be any other leader again. Because even in the middle of all of this, what has been some of the buzz? He'll rerun in 2024. He needs to be impeached. They're not going to do the 25th Amendment because Pence, I guess only one nut dropped, not two. Only one nut dropped, not two. Or maybe the other nut was still in his mom's purse. I don't know. But they still need to go through with the impeachment process. Not to get him out of the office as immediately as possible, but to be able to mark him so he can never hold another federal government position for as long as he is drawing breath. That's the importance of the impeachment process right now, and Pelosi knows that. Yeah, and I ain't too happy. I ain't too happy with her little ass right now either. But still, he needs to be impeached no matter how much time he has left in office. I hated listening to the fucking news media and these politicians saying, "Oh, he's only got 2 weeks. Oh, he's only got 2 weeks." That's just 2 weeks in that position. That's not telling us that he's not going to run again in 2024. He's not going to reactivate this base. He's not going to win again. We need to ensure the fact that this motherfucker can't do this ever again. That's what the impeachment process means now.
Well, and it's also like, if I were to put in my 2 weeks notice at work, right, and I incited a riot at work, I'd get fired.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I'd be arrested.
According to the precedents that's been set last Tuesday, Jake, maybe not. Maybe you wouldn't be fired. I would. Because what precedence was set? Yep. Imagine.
I agree.
And then also, Jake, what other country is looking at all of this and saying, I can just imagine people that hate us sitting back and watching this on repeat on the internet and saying, "Oh, that's how easy it is? Why didn't we think of this? Fuck flying planes into buildings. We could just walk in."
Right. Yeah.
It's that easy.
Yeah, exactly.
I can put some horns on my head, be shirtless, in shape, tattooed up, not the guy, and I can just walk right. Oh, well, honey, let's order some Trump flags and let's just walk right in. They're not going to stop us. Maybe if there was a little more damage, people would have a little more understanding.
Well, here's the thing, man, is like, just because the bombs didn't go off does not change the fact that they were in there. If I were to shoot someone, let's say I'm shooting to kill someone and my aim was off and I hit him in the leg, does that change my intention? No. Would I still go to prison? Yes.
Well,
is this still?
No. You're going to have a hard time arguing that one, Jake. Sorry. Would you? Probably not. Would I? Life sentence.
No, you'd still go to prison even for this. Like, you go to prison for attempted murder. That is a thing. White or not, okay? Like,
no, there's someone that went to Burger King after killing a couple people in the street. He's not in prison.
Yeah.
He's affluential.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a bigger, deeper discussion.
Very true.
Because, like, yeah, it's a little bit.
But Jake, you would get
skin
skin privilege whether you recognized it or not. The system
Well,
is
I'm not saying I wouldn't.
right. The system
I'm
is
very aware.
built. The system is designed this way, and it was proven on Tuesday that it's designed this way. Not saying that it's you, and you would never do anything heinous like that anyway.
Yeah. No, I'm aware. I'm aware of privileges. Everyone has privileges. Everyone has different privileges and shit. But that doesn't change my point at all. Okay? Like, it doesn't change my point that these people incited a riot. They incited a coup. Trump incited a coup. Trump should go to prison for the rest of his goddamn life for inciting a coup. He fucking should. And I swear to God, if he's able to pardon himself, I'm going to lose it, dude. If he's able to pardon all of the... Because that's the rumor now, is Trump is going to potentially pardon everyone who attempted the coup. That's just ridiculous, man. This is why we need to invoke the 25th Amendment right now. We need to do it right now. It's ridiculous that we're not.
Jake, 2 months ago,
and I'm aware of the reasoning, Cory.
Yeah.
That's my whole thing.
I understand.
I'm aware of what's.
But I said three months ago, before the election, I said if he loses this election, I don't put anything past him. This dude's gonna he's gonna pull off the stops. We were thinking civil war. Well, this is almost the beginning of one. Right. You know, we thought it was going to be.
He did sort of puss out at the end there.
We thought it was going to be, you know, a race war, but he attacked his own people.
Yeah,
because
he has no one in the office now except for like Ted Cruz, and who gives a fuck about that guy?
It wasn't the fact that it was nothing but Democrats or anti-Trump people that were in the Capitol. It was his people too. And I texted you and I told you because we were texting back.
You know it's bad when Mitch McConnell is like, this went too far. Trump is wrong. Like,
yeah,
you know it's bad when even Mitch McConnell is sounding reasonable.
And though taking his looks, him saying that proves he's human. He doesn't look human, but he clearly is human. And I think his wife probably got out in his ear too, because his wife was part of Trump's cabinet, and she got the fuck up out there the day she's peace out, fool. I'm out of here. She left. She quit.
Well, it could be that they're human, or it could mean that they're fucking terrified to lose their positions. You know, you've noticed it on Fox News too, where like they were down to back Trump all the way until he lost the election. And then as soon as they lost his election, they're like, well, we don't want to lose our jobs, so let's pivot. I don't buy that this is a morality thing on their end. They just are reading the room, and they're like, okay, the majority of America is turning, so we need to as well.
They're
that's the way I read it. I don't
futures. I get that.
Yeah, they're thinking about their jobs. They're thinking that, they don't give a fuck. They never have. If they gave a fuck, they would have said something 3 years ago, 4 years ago, you know?
And dude.
And some of them did before Trump won the office. And then immediately, Ted Cruz is a great example. While Trump was running, one of his biggest oppositions was fucking Ted Cruz, right? And Trump attacked his wife, you know, took low blows at him, and Ted Cruz said, this is not presidential, this isn't the way. Even at the RNC, he said, you know, you can vote with your conscience. And that was basically him saying, hey, don't vote for Trump. And then out of nowhere, he flipped like a dime when Trump won the election, and he became Trump's little dick weasel and just followed him around. Like, god damn, dude, it's so ridiculous. I don't give a fuck what any of these politicians have to say. Even if they change their mind, they should all lose office.
Even the last
Mitch McConnell,
one of them. Mitch
McConnell,
one.
Fucking Mike Pence should never hold office ever again. I don't give a shit that he's changing his tune now. This man should never be in office ever again. I hope no one forgets this. I hope in 4 years when Mike Pence inevitably runs for fucking president, because we all know that's going to happen, people don't look at this as like Mike Pence being a good guy. I hope we remember the 4 years before this where he was just Donald Trump's fucking boy pussy. So he could just get fucked in the ass by him constantly.
Something sooner than that needs to happen, though, Jake. In 2 years, every last one of these. This is my thought. And I'm not a very political person. but I think I'm going to throw my name in the race. Everybody that was in office the year Trump was elected to now, everyone that wasn't elected in November, everyone prior to November election, up from there, should all be voted out. Democrat and Republican alike. Every last one of them. Anyone that has sat under this administration, whether they spoke out against it or whether they didn't, all of them should go.
What do you do though when the Senate has a majority? Like, what do you do?
You got to clear the bench. You can.
What do you do? How do you do that though? Like, I don't know. I don't think that's a very fair.
I think that is 100% fair, because if they didn't do anything, they could have persuaded, which they've done before, their Republican counterparts to come across the aisle. They could have. Everyone could have done something. Democrat and Republican alike could have done something. Even all of the Democrats didn't even all 100 of them, and the independents didn't all vote when the impeachment hearing was taken the first time. Everyone that has been in office since under this Trump administration, every last one of them needs to go. This is what we call a hockey sub. We need to sub out everybody that's been in the game and get new blood in there. That's the only way it's the only way I can see this happening. People have gotten roots into Washington, D.C. that run too damn deep. It's time to pluck them up, remove them, and get some new ones in there. I don't give a fuck who they are. I will start the movement called Clear the Bench.
Yeah, I hate politicians as much as the next guy. But, like, I don't know how you could say that about someone like Bernie Sanders, you know, who has actively been fighting against it within the government. Someone like AOC, like, should these people be punished even though they've been working within the system?
Yes.
Like, they're doing what they can.
They didn't do enough.
Like, what can you do besides what Trump just tried to do, Cory?
I don't know. I'm not in their role. It's their role. They can do something if they want to do something. It's not like they haven't gotten anything done.
No. Because what you're arguing, Cory, is that these people should have done the opposite of what Trump did and incite a coup. But just the opposite direction? That makes no sense. You have to fight within the system to win the system back. That's the only way. So people like AOC, Senator of Hawaii, Mazie Hirono, like, these people have been standing against Trump since the very beginning. There's just nothing you can do.
If you sit back and you ask those people like AOC and Bernie Sanders, when all this is said and done, and you ask them the one question, do you think there was more you could have done? I guarantee you they'll say yes.
What would they
because
do?
AOC, I don't know what specifically they would do, Jake. I'm not in their role. But when you sit back and you have someone like AOC, you have someone like Bernie Sanders.
It's easy for you to say, like, these people should be voted out immediately.
You know why? Because it's the only way that it seems like we're going to be able to be rid of all of this. Everyone that's in Washington could have done something more if they wanted to. There's no way that there's someone that they were all powerless. How could they?
What?
How could they? You're asking me specifics. I don't know specifics. But because they have been able to get things done before that cross party lines, why couldn't they do it for this? Why couldn't they get their Republican counterparts before to pass certain things? Why couldn't they do it on this?
They never have been able to do that. That is something that has never been able to do with the Republicans. The liberals are fucking happy to come over and cross lines because they're like, well, in the future, we'd like to receive the same sort of, Obama talked about that constantly when he was president. We always have to reach across the board and reach out to the Republicans because we're all American or whatever. But then the Republicans refuse to return the favor. So no matter what you do, you can't do it without doing exactly what Trump just did, which is incite a coup. We, the people, need to vote these motherfucking idiots like Ted Cruz and whatever Haley, whatever the fuck his name is. We need to stop voting for people like Donald Trump and Mike Pence and start voting for more people like Bernie Sanders. We shouldn't punish Bernie Sanders for being the one voice of reason in the Senate. We shouldn't vote out AOC for being the one voice of reason in the fucking House of Representatives. That makes no sense. We should fucking praise the ones that are standing against it.
I'm not praising anybody that's been in there for the last 4 years. I'm not praising one of those motherfuckers that have been there, because Bernie Sanders and AOC have the same responsibility to their donors and sponsors as well. That who knows that they didn't have somebody behind them saying, okay, well, you can still stand against them, but don't push too hard. I'm not giving anybody a reprieve. And you know my stance on this whole entire thing is that we need to bulldoze the whole damn thing and start over in Maine. I've been saying that for years. I don't give anybody a fucking reprieve. No one gets a green ticket from me. I understand what you're saying, Jake, but no one gets a green ticket.
I understand what you're saying as well, and you're saying we should bulldoze the government and we should start over, which, great, that's fine. But if the people are not behind it, that's the whole thing. I believe in democracy 100%. And if the people don't want that, we shouldn't invoke the same thing that Trump is saying, because the people voted for Trump to leave. And honestly, the people didn't vote for Trump in the first place. The people voted for Hillary Clinton. It's the Electoral College. These are the things that need to change, okay? Electoral College, first and foremost. This is proof that the Electoral College is fucking bullshit, because the American people did not vote for Trump in 2016.
True.
That didn't happen. They didn't vote for him. The Electoral College did. It's bullshit. That needs to leave, okay? We cannot use their tactics with our tactics. We cannot fight fire with fire. We have to be the bigger people here. That's all I'm saying.
Well said.
Thank you. Should we talk about something else, or do
5, 6, 7, 8? Let's go home. Games? Let's go home. All
right.
This is exhausting. I'm so flabbergasted over this entire thing, and I know that in a few weeks, no one's even going to remember this. In a few months, no one's even going to remember this not. Because
I hope people remember this forever.
No, they won't, because people forgot that I can stand in the middle of New York and shoot someone and get away with it. There are good people on both sides. People forgot about all of that, dude. And people are going to forget when the next big shiny thing moves in, man.
I don't know if that's necessarily true, though, because we've seen an uprising over the past 4 years.
And you're absolutely right, Jake. And you know what? I'm going to recall just a little bit on that. And the reason why I believe people are remembering is because something that has never happened in quite some time is now taking place, where one political party has control over the Senate and the fucking House.
Yeah.
If that's that's like the only silver lining I can draw on this clusterfuck. I don't think because any time that since I've been aware of policies, if it's a Democratic president, it's a Republican Senate. If it's a Republican Senate, it's a Democrat president. It's always had a balance. Never have I ever seen everything just onto one side. So that's the only silver lining I can draw with this whole entire thing.
Yeah, I don't think people have forgotten, because
I hope they don't forget.
Say people have forgotten
in two years.
We've seen Antifa. Antifa has not gone away. We've seen BLM. That started way back in 2015. It's still a thing. These are, we can say it's easy for us to say we forgot in 2 weeks when we're not talking about it. But that's just how life works. Sometimes you gotta go back to work. It's not that you've forgotten about it. You can think about more than one thing at a time. So you know what I mean? Yeah. I don't think it's a fair assessment to say we all just forgot about it.
They will.
Yeah, I hope not.
I hope not either. I hope in 2 years they remember this when there's midterm elections.
Yeah,
and all of those people, those 121, is it 121? What was the number? I have the number here. Those 121 House members that are all up for election in 2 years, folks. Come on, clear them out. Replace them with different Republicans. I'm fine with that. These 121 need to get the fuck out of there. Replace them with some. I'm not telling you to abandon your party. Find someone that represents your party better. And I'll this will be my final point, Jake. I cannot remember who it was that sent a tweet out to the Republican National Party when they were deciding to nominate Trump. But he tweeted, and I can't remember who it was, but he tweeted out and he said, if we nominate Trump, it will be the end of our party. And Jake, I'm going to send you a meme, one of my most poignant memes that I've seen throughout the whole thing, where it shows the state capitol on Trump's inauguration day and the state capitol on day 1492.
I was actually planning on making that the thumbnail of this video. So,
Please do. Sorry we weren't funny this week, folks, but we'll be funny. I told you, Jake.
We're never really that funny.
No, you're not. I'm fucking hilarious. I don't know about you.
That's true.
I'm fucking hilarious.
Funny to look at.
That's very true, Jake. That's very true.
Well, it feels a little weird to do this, but make sure you check out the other shows. Check our show out every Monday. Make sure you check out the Loner Gamecast every Tuesday. We post random shit all the time. Make sure you follow us on Twitch. Lonercast. Just look up Lonercast. You'll find us. Fat Guy Radio Show. Cory's show. Make sure you check that out as well. It's Fat Guy Radio Show, all one word, everywhere you can find it. So, bye.
Bye.